Not again! God, why are you punishing us?
Calm down, my love. God will give us a child in his own time.
They said Michelle was a witch. Some whispered she ate the children in her womb. For 6 long years, she carried hope, only to bury it in tears. Every night, she cried beside her husband, asking God why he blessed them with everything but denied them a child. What no one knew was that the hands destroying her dream were the same hands collecting their money every month. Let's go back to how it all began. But before I start, please subscribe, like, and comment. This keeps me encouraged. Lawrence and Michelle were the happiest couple you could think of. From the day they got married, peace followed them everywhere they went. They laughed easily, spoke kindly to each other, and never went to bed angry. Every morning before the city fully awoke, they prayed together. Every evening, no matter how busy the day had been, they shared meals and stories like best friends. People often said their home felt warm, as though joy itself lived inside it. Lawrence was a hard-working man. He owned a motor parts business close to a busy road where mechanics and drivers passed every day. He understood his work well and treated customers fairly, so his business grew steadily. Michelle, on the other hand, was gifted with her hands. She owned a fashion shop where she made beautiful clothes. Her designs were simple but elegant, and women trusted her. Orders came in daily, and her shop was always busy. Together, they lacked nothing. They owned cars, lived in a comfortable house, and traveled outside the country whenever they wanted to rest or celebrate milestones. Their kindness was even greater than their success. Lawrence never forgot his family. His elder brother, Bamidele, struggled financially, and Lawrence took it upon himself to help. He paid school fees for Bamidele's children without complaining. Some were in secondary school, others in university, and Lawrence handled it all quietly. Michelle also gave freely. She supported church programs, paid her tithe faithfully, and donated to an orphanage every month. They believed strongly that giving was a way of thanking God for his goodness. But as the years passed, one thing remained missing. There was no child in their home. At first, it did not worry them. They believed children would come in God's time. They enjoyed their marriage, focused on their businesses, and traveled freely. But after the first year, questions began. After the second year, whispers followed. Still, they trusted God. When Michelle finally became pregnant, their joy knew no bounds. Lawrence smiled more than ever. He prayed loudly, thanking God for remembering them. Michelle spoke softly to her womb each night, dreaming of the child she would soon hold. Then, 2 months later, pain returned. Michelle lost the pregnancy suddenly. Doctors said they could not find any clear reason. Lawrence held her as she cried uncontrollably. They prayed together that night, believing the loss was temporary. They told themselves God would surely comfort them with another pregnancy soon. And he did. Michelle became pregnant again. Hope returned. Once more, 2 months passed, and once more the pregnancy ended. This time, the pain cut deeper. Michelle cried for days. Lawrence felt helpless watching the woman he loved suffer again. Still, they prayed. They fasted. They sowed seeds in church. They gave more to the orphanage. They believed that faith would surely bring answers. But answers did not come. Each pregnancy followed the same pattern. Hope would rise. Joy would fill their home. Then sorrow would return after 2 months. Their house, though beautiful, became a place of silent tears at night. Neighbors began to notice. Some whispered that Michelle was cursed. Others said she was not normal. Michelle heard the words even when they were not spoken directly to her. She carried the shame quietly, trusting God to defend her. By the fourth miscarriage, Michelle could no longer hold herself together. That night, she cried until her body shook. She asked God questions she had never dared to ask before. She asked why they had everything, yet still lacked the one thing that mattered most to her. Lawrence held her tightly, crying silently. He did not have answers. He only had faith, and even that felt tired. What Lawrence and Michelle did not know was that their pain did not come from heaven. It came from within their own family. Bamidele, Lawrence's elder brother, watched everything quietly. Outwardly, he was respectful and grateful. He thanked Lawrence often and praised his kindness in front of others. But inside his heart, fear lived. Lawrence was the reason his children were in good schools. Without him, Bamidele had no steady support. The thought of Lawrence having children of his own terrified him. He feared that the day Lawrence became a father would be the day his own children would be forgotten. Instead of working harder and trusting God, Bamidele chose a dark path. He visited a place he never spoke of, seeking a solution that would protect his comfort. There, he made a terrible decision. He interfered spiritually with Michelle's womb. Every time Michelle became pregnant, he repeated the act. Each miscarriage brought him relief. Each loss meant Lawrence would continue paying his children's school fees. While Lawrence and Michelle cried and prayed, Bamidele slept peacefully. Then, one day, everything changed. Bamidele was involved in a terrible accident on a Lagos highway. His car crashed badly. Though he survived, his spine was damaged. Doctors said he would never walk properly again. His life changed overnight. He could no longer walk or move freely. Pain became his daily companion. Bamidele lay helpless on the hospital bed, staring at the white ceiling day and night. The machines beside him made soft sounds, reminding him that his life had changed forever. Pain filled his body, but it was nothing compared to the pain in his heart. Sleep refused to come easily. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw Michelle crying and Lawrence kneeling in prayer. His heart beat fast with fear. Deep inside, he knew his condition was not just an accident. Something was calling him to account. One afternoon, a pastor from a nearby church came to visit him. The pastor had heard about the accident and came out of concern. He greeted Bamidele gently and asked him how he was feeling. Bamidele tried to smile, but tears rolled down his face instead. The pastor placed a hand on his shoulder and began to pray softly. As he prayed, the atmosphere in the hospital room changed. It became quiet, deep, and heavy. Bamidele felt something stirring inside him, something he could no longer ignore. As the pastor continued praying, the Holy Spirit touched Bamidele. His body shook and his tears flowed freely. The pastor suddenly stopped praying and looked at him closely. In a calm but firm voice, he said, "My brother, God says you cannot be healed until you speak the truth. Call those you have offended. Confess what you have done. Do not hide anything." Those words hit him like thunder. He knew exactly who the pastor was talking about. That night, Bamidele could not rest. The Holy Spirit kept reminding him of every evil decision he had made. He realized that no amount of prayer could cover a heart full of lies. Early the next morning, he asked the nurse for his phone. With trembling hands, he called Lawrence. His voice was weak as he begged him to come to the hospital with Michelle. Lawrence was surprised, but something in Bamidele's voice told him this was important. When Lawrence and Michelle arrived, Bamidele could not look them in the eyes at first. He cried like a child, asking God for mercy before speaking. Then, slowly, he told them everything. He confessed how fear and greed pushed him to do evil. He admitted how he interfered with Michelle's womb because he did not want Lawrence to stop paying his children's school fees. As he spoke, Michelle broke down in tears, and Lawrence felt a deep pain settle in his chest. The pastor watched quietly as the truth poured out. When Bamidele finished speaking, the pastor prayed again, asking God for mercy and forgiveness. He told Bamidele that confession was the first step, but consequences would still follow. Lawrence listened without speaking. His heart was heavy, but his spirit was clear. He forgave his brother in his heart, but he made a firm decision. From that day on, he withdrew all financial support. He told Bamidele gently, "I forgive you, but I cannot continue like before." When Bamidele's children heard this story, at first they did not understand everything, but they noticed the change around them. They saw how people stopped visiting their father, how their mother cried quietly at night, and how their Uncle Lawrence no longer came with gifts and laughter. One evening, their mother sat them down and explained in soft words what their father had done and why their family was now facing shame and hardship. The children listened in silence, their hearts heavy with confusion and fear. The oldest child cried the most. He felt angry, sad, and ashamed all at once. He remembered how Uncle Lawrence had paid their school fees, bought them clothes, and treated them like his own children. The younger ones held each other tightly, asking if their uncle would ever forgive them. That night, the children prayed together for the first time without being told. They prayed for their father's healing and begged God to forgive their family. The next day, they followed their mother to Lawrence and Michelle's house. They stood quietly at the door, their heads bowed low. When Lawrence opened the door and saw them, his heart softened immediately. The children knelt down and begged him to forgive their father. Their voices shook as they cried, saying they did not know what their father had done and that they were sorry for the pain he caused. Michelle wept as she listened, her heart torn between pain and compassion. From that day on, the children kept coming. Sometimes they brought nothing but their tears. Other times they brought small gifts like fruits or flowers bought by the roadside. They knelt every time, pleading not for money, but for forgiveness. Lawrence always lifted them up gently and told them that the sin of a father should not follow his children. He spoke kindly to them, reminding them to live honestly and never allow greed to enter their hearts. Back in the hospital, Bamidele grew weaker with each passing day. His body failed him, but his mind remained awake. Every morning, he cried bitterly on his hospital bed. He cried for Michelle, for Lawrence, for the innocent children he had almost destroyed, and for his own children who now walked in shame because of him. Nurses often found him whispering prayers late at night, asking God for mercy he knew he did not deserve. Sometimes his children came to visit him. When he saw them, he turned his face away and cried harder. He told them over and over again not to follow his path, not to allow jealousy and fear control their lives. He apologized to them for destroying their future and bringing sorrow into their young hearts. His tears soaked the hospital pillow every day, and even the doctors knew that his sickness was no longer just of the body, but of the soul. After the day Bamidele confessed, peace slowly returned to Lawrence and Michelle's home. The heavy sadness that had followed them for years lifted. Michelle began to sleep peacefully again. She smiled more, laughed more, and prayed with new hope. Some months later, she discovered she was pregnant again. Fear tried to rise, but faith stood stronger. They prayed calmly and trusted God quietly. This time, the pregnancy stayed. When Michelle finally gave birth, the cry of their baby filled the house with joy. Lawrence held the child and cried openly, thanking God. Michelle smiled through tears, knowing that their long night had finally ended. Their home, once filled with silence, now overflowed with laughter and life. As for Bamidele, his body remained weak, but his heart had learnt a hard lesson. He understood too late that greed destroys faster than hunger, and that kindness should never be abused. One quiet morning, as sunlight entered the hospital room, Bamidele called the nurse and asked her to help him sit up. He whispered a final prayer, asking God to forgive him and protect everyone he had hurt. His breathing became slow and shallow, and before anyone could call for help, his spirit left his body. Bamidele died with tears still in his eyes. When the news reached the village, there was silence. No celebration, no loud mourning, only quiet reflection. People spoke softly about his life, remembering both his mistakes and his regrets. His children cried, but they also remembered his final words of warning. Lawrence prayed for his soul and asked God to heal every heart that had been wounded.